Hi, and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh, and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we interview people from various artistic disciplines. These episodes are sometimes full-length interviews from our site's articles, and other times exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. And if you're new here, thanks for checking us out. We hope you'll like it and stick around with us. In this episode, we speak with Tess Stevens and Gideon Berger of the Californian punk rock band Tess and the Details. Tess and Gideon discuss their new album Runaway, how they met through their producer, how playing in this band compares to Gideon's old band Useless ID, their upcoming show at the legendary San Francisco club Bottom of the Hill, utilising social media for promotion during the pandemic, their upcoming second album, and more. Hey, how's it going? You guys hear me okay?
Hi,
Hello.
yeah.
Hi, it's nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, my first question, quite simply, was how did Tess and Details kind of start? Because I know, for example, Tess, you'd been kind of recording as a solo artist for a while, and I know Gideon, you were actually recording with her. So, I was wondering, what the impetus was for kind of expanding the project into like a full band, as opposed to just kind of like working as a solo project.
So basically when we were in the recording studio for Patient, we gelled really well. Like right after I met Gideon, I kind of knew that he was going to be someone I could work with over and over again, hopefully more than just drumming. But eventually we started writing songs together. And over the course of the pandemic, we came up with a bunch of material and we were like, oh, maybe we should do something with this.
Yeah.
Which led us to go into the studio, Modern Tone Studios in Lafayette, and work with our mutual friend, Jacob Light. And the three of us basically created Runaway together. And then after we had those songs, again, me and Gideon were like, well, we should probably play them live. They're pretty good. So we started looking for bandmates to play live, and we found two amazing ones, Dustin Galecki for lead guitar and Lawrence Hood on bass.
Yep.
And now it's a full-blown rock band. So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Well, Jacob was actually quite instrumental in you guys meeting. Is that correct? I was wondering actually, Tess, how did you kind of meet Jacob yourself? And I believe Gideon, you were already kind of friends with him prior to that.
Yeah, so it's funny. I researched a bunch of recording studios around me, like in the 3 or 4 cities around me, and I had interviewed like a few guys. And by the time I got to Jacob, again, like right when I got in the room, once I saw his studio and how he operated, and he heard the songs and he didn't just listen to them and go, I'll take your money and record. He's like, no, I hear a part here. Or
Yeah.
like, this song would be great with this. And the fact that he had constructive things to say about the music aside from it's great and I like it and I want to work on it was why I went with him. And then a few weeks after we started talking, he's like, I know this guy, he plays drums, he's a good friend of mine, and I think you guys would click, because I originally was going to play drums on my EP myself, and I'm like I'm very mediocre.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I'd rather not. Cool. Yeah, Jacob, extremely instrumental for sure.
And then Gideon, what was it about Tess's music that made you want to get involved once you heard it?
Sure. A couple of things. Well, first off, the introduction I got from our mutual friend Jacob. Jacob is one of those people, like when he tells you something, recommends something, offers you something, you listen.
Okay.
And we have a really honest relationship. So when he reached out to me and he's like, hey, this girl just walked through the door. She has a bunch of songs. This is good. You need to A, check it out, and B, she needs drums. So you want to play drums for this. And again, when Jacob calls you, you pick up the phone. And indeed, like me and Tess connected, and she sent me the demos, and I was like, I agree with everything. This is good. The music is good. The vocals, like the melody itself, is perfect. Lyrics, it makes sense. It's very sophisticated yet approachable. And when I got in the car and drove to the studio and met Tess, I was like, okay, cool. We're having a laugh. This is awesome. This is working.
Yeah.
And from there, yeah, the whole detail story started rolling from that point.
And then yeah, I mean, so that would have been actually I believe like when you guys kind of met and started recording, it was just prior to COVID, if I'm correct, prior to the lockdowns. And I believe like obviously, I mean, like kind of the first kind of single that you had that was kind of a hit was Patient 139, which was released, you know, as Tess Stevens. Yeah, I was wondering like that kind of took off as a result of like during the pandemic, as a result of like the popularity of TikTok. I was wondering, was that always kind of like the plan to go to utilize modern social media to kind of elevate your music, or was that just kind of I don't know, just based on circumstance of the pandemic itself?
Well, first of all, you know your stuff. I appreciate it. Wow. Yeah,
I
you know
try.
your stuff. Thank you. I guess it was a consequence of the pandemic because originally my goal, like I had started playing acoustic shows by myself, like immediately after we recorded the stuff, just to like prep myself and make sure that I was ready. Because my full intent from when I was 10 years old was to be in a band like this, never to be a solo artist, but I just kind of ended up there. And TikTok was a weird thing because I was like, should I don't know. I saw people singing on there, like doing covers and like talking about stuff. And I'm like, I'm bored. I could do that for a little while. And then I posted like this video explaining the story behind the song, which is like gnarly.
Yeah.
And all these kids were like, me too. I get this. I understand this. Thank you so much. Oh my God, it sounds like this band, or it's bringing me this nostalgia, or why don't people make music like this anymore? So I'm like, okay, there's something here. Like people want this kind of sound, which is cool. I mean, I'd make it regardless of whether people wanted it, but it was really encouraging, and it opened up this kind of floodgate of like, we could have something here. And it was really encouraging. But originally the plan was always to like find a band and play it live and kick it old school, because like my favorite thing to do is play live. It's the best part of this, I think.
Yeah. So then, actually, during the pandemic of the lockdowns, yeah, I was wondering like because like what were you kind of like doing in between them? Were you kind of like in contact, or were you doing sorry, I'm just hearing myself in the playback. Yeah, well, sorry, were you able to kind of write to meet or anything, or what were you kind of doing during that period?
I'll let Gideon explain our songwriting process, because during the pandemic, we kind of developed a little system, which I don't think it's crazy different than a lot of people's, but it's interesting.
Okay.
So for me personally, this is the first time I ever got so I've been playing in bands and playing drums and doing that whole BS for like 20 years, but this is the first time I'm given the opportunity to write a song, like pick up a guitar and actually do the thing. So the way we approach this over the pandemic, obviously you can't sit in the same room, you can't do the typical writing process stuff. So we tracked stuff on our phones and send it back and forth. So I will, sit in my room, write like a 4 chord, 3 chord, sometimes 2 chord progression,
Yeah.
hum some sort of melody on top of it, record it with my phone, send it over to Tess. 25 minutes later, I get the same line back with vocals, with melodies, maybe some backups, like the song is already there, and then we started to play with it and like, maybe we need to shorten the verse, and maybe we need to double the chorus, and maybe that part should be a break, and that part should be a breakdown. And throughout the pandemic, one thing that like one of the opportunities that I recognize is that people are looking for remote recordings.
Right.
People right in the room, kind of like we did, and they were looking for drums recording, which is kind of challenging. So the pandemic allowed me the opportunity to open my own little studio, and I offer remote recordings. But I also do my own recordings. So we take those demos, I track drums on top of it. So it's actually after a duration of like a few days of back and forth, we're doing this ping pong. We have an actual live demo that we can later take to the rest of the band or to Jacob as a producer, and then they can tell us, this is wrong. You guys are terrible. Let me clean this up. But we come super prepared and super well planned out with like how we want this song to be. So yeah.
Then obviously this year you released like your debut album with, under the band with Runaway. Yeah, I was wondering like I don't know, I was listening to it, and it's like it really reminds me again, like you were kind of saying, like the sort of like 90s kind of skate punk, kind of pop punk that I really enjoyed and that I kind of like grew up listening to as well. It seems like that sound like just like will never kind of like get old. It's like so it's still kind of like I don't know, there's just something about it that I just think seems very um I don't know, sincere or just I don't know, still appealing. I don't know. I guess like what I would say is like it still makes me feel kind of youthful. I was wondering what do you think the kind of like residency of that kind of like sound of which your band is kind of in the lineage of what do you think that still kind of like resonates with people today?
I think what you're hitting on is something that's timeless,
Yeah.
something that's classic. All of our songs stand alone on an acoustic guitar. Like you could play it with just the vocal on the acoustic guitar and you're not missing anything. And I think a lot of that and like the skate punk, pop punk, straight up punk rock kind of place that we sit in, it overall relies on melody and writing things that are relatable and true. And we hope that when people listen to it, they get the experience that you had, which is like, there's something nostalgic about this because it's classic, right? It's timeless, but there's also something new about it because there's a bunch of stuff that's colliding on this record that doesn't necessarily always go together. Like
Yeah.
R&B vocal runs don't normally go on top of DB. Like you don't really hear that. So there's like some little things that we have going that feel very utterly ourselves, but they're always drawing upon this kind of like we don't need to reinvent the wheel and then run ourselves over with it. Like we're not trying to make it too complicated. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
And that's just a release. I mean, how's it? How do you feel like things have different? Sorry, how do you think things have changed for you guys like since the album has been released?
Um, a couple of things. So overall, we're very thankful that the responses have been positive,
Yeah,
both from strangers and folks we just met and folks that just came across our music and people who just, randomly found us, but also from close friends and family and people that we trust their opinion, that heard, quote unquote, heard everything, saw everything. People we actually take their opinion and we value them, reach out and like, this is good. This
yeah,
is awesome. So that's one part. That's always good, for the ego, and it's like a one checkbox that's like, oh, okay, cool. So we
yeah,
do this. It's not a total waste of time. But the biggest impact I think is that nowadays, because of social media and all that stuff, you have access and you have transparency to the people who enjoy it, and they're vocal about it.
yeah.
People post unboxing videos. People post, how they sing along to the music, covers, stuff like that. That blows my mind. I could only imagine the feeling for like big, big, big names and big artists that something they see on a daily basis. But for us, a young act, seeing these kind of things is amazing. This is what motivates us to, do this. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and actually, Guinea, I wanted to ask you in particular. I mean, like obviously you were mentioning earlier that you've been like in plenty of other projects. I mean, most famously probably Useless ID. I was wondering like how do you feel that this band kind of like differs from other projects that you've been a part of?
Good question. A couple of things. It's a mixture of experienced people who's done this before, but it's a new band.
Yeah,
It's a young mindset, it's a new attitude, but we really appreciate the history, the tradition. Bands that put out the blueprint for this, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're never gonna say like, our genre is so innovative and no, we're like an old car. We're just cleaning it up and trying to make it tighter and like more efficient. But again, it's an old school car, an old school muscle car in a way. Um, so because going back to what you mentioned, because we have members who've been active, and I was fortunate enough to be exposed to a lot of people, a lot of experience, a lot of people taught me how to do things, how to handle things, logistics, crisis management, writing songs, band chemistry, band synergies, networking, stuff like that. That really helps like setting up, make sure that I'm not gonna say that we're set up for success because what is success, but making sure that we're not set up for failure. We're not gonna do stupid decisions. We're not gonna do things that hurt us, that hurt our audience, hurt other members within the band, things like that. Yeah, I think those are the things that are different and good about this project.
And Tess, for yourself as someone who's kind of newer to this, let's say, yeah, I was wondering, do you find like that kind of like vibrancy too? Because I mean, like on the one hand, it's like it seems like I don't know, like with every new project comes like I don't know, like a fresh start almost. Like you kind of just have like the ability to just kind of like um I guess like you just have the kind of freedom to kind of like experiment in a way that you mightn't if you have like more of an established act. I was wondering, um, to you, like how does this kind of like feel then for you?
Well, I've evolved a lot through this. Being a solo artist is a very different mindset than being in a band. And I've always just wanted to be in a band, but for some reason, people always wanted me to be by myself. When you're by yourself, everything is on you. And you're kind of in the dark going, does this look good? Is this fun? And
Yeah,
does that look right? Does that sound right? And most of the time, you're wrong. Most of the time, you do something and it turns out shit, and you have to learn that and then track yourself back. But like, having someone like Gideon in this band with so much experience, it's like, okay, let me bounce this off of you. And then when it comes back and it's like, okay, great, let's do this and this, or that's not the move or whatever. It's good to have more brains going because when you're on your own, you can make some wacky decisions. And I'm lucky that the wacky decisions I made led me to this.
yeah,
So some of them were good. But I have done a lot of growing up, I think, throughout the course of this project, and just, holding, being in a band helps you hold yourself more accountable for things like practicing and working on things and expanding your skills because there's other people relying on you. So I would say that's kind of where my mindset shifted, was like, I need to not only be better because I want to succeed, which is a great natural motivator, but like I want everyone around me to succeed. I want everybody on the ship to feel, like they're being steered in the right direction. So it's great to have a partner in Gideon in that, and then also to have, other band members that are contributing new stuff. Like I don't think the way somebody like our guitar player Dustin thinks about riffs. Like I
yeah.
can't write the stuff that he thinks of. So when you hear those different layers, it's like, okay, cool, I can take that and do something new with it. So it expands the sound, and it also expands yourself as a person.
Yeah, actually, when you're kind of like as a solo artist, I imagine like you kind of like you write music and you kind of like hopefully get to show it to an audience. But then when you're actually like doing it kind of in house with band members who are trying to like elevate the music too. I mean, obviously, like a lot of your music is very personal. Do you ever find like I don't know, like do you ever find it becomes like less streamlined in the sense that like you have to kind of like bring it to other band members and kind of get their perception too, or do you find comfortable doing that is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, I honestly think it made things more streamlined
Okay.
for me. The way that me and Gideon work is very like here's an idea, but we don't have a lot of like, what do you think about that? We'll just like play stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's actual concrete music going back and forth each time, rather than like, let's talk about the feeling of this. Blah, blah. No, 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 no. Like the bridge should sound like this, bang, audio file. Like it's way more efficient than a lot of ways that I used to write by myself, because I would just be like, here's a verse, or I'd hum into my phone, and like then 2 days later I'm like, what the hell was that? I don't even remember what that was. But like click track, making sure that you have verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, whatever, like the accountability is there. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to send him something unfinished. Like I want to send him the thing that he can jump off of. And like I wouldn't say that like when we get into the room is when like the kind of the fun stuff starts, where like everyone's like, oh, what if we did this? Oh, what if we did that? And you just start trying things. But for me, it's so much more fun to write with other people, because then you're not sitting in that vacuum or that vacuous headspace going like, is this terrible? Am I delusional? Like, is it
Yeah.
good? Because you have like a mirror. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
And then also, one other thing I wanted to ask is then, like, obviously, when you're working with other people, and you see them trying to kind of elevate the music, do you find that as a songwriter to be kind of flattering that, like, they care enough about the kind of music you're bringing to the table to actually want to try and, elevate it?
Oh yeah, I mean the first few songs we worked on, Canary was one of the first songs we wrote together.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by the amount of detail. Like we call our band the Details because like we're obsessed over everything.
Yeah.
And like having something come back with like drums on it. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
there's drums on this already? Like what's going on here? And just I think it speaks a lot to how when you find someone that you can kind of share that brain with, things become easier. Like a lot of people are afraid to like, oh, I'm going to be embarrassed, or oh, my lyrics are weird, or no one's going to understand me. Like if I send a lyrics over to Gideon and he doesn't get it, he's like, Tess, this only makes sense to you. Like, hi, let's come back to earth here. Like this is
Right.
not poetry jam. Like we're writing a song with a purpose. So like it challenges and strengthens and creates new opportunities to like write more story songs. Like we're working on the next record and more of it's outward facing.
Okay.
And I never was that kind of writer before, but now it's like all I want to write. So it's interesting. It's an interesting like push and pull. I think it's fortunate. I feel very fortunate.
Perfect. I guess like one of the final things I'll ask is actually, you guys have a show coming up on the 15th at the bottom of the hill in San Francisco. Legendary music venue. I mean, even I know about it. I've never been to San Francisco, even I know. Yeah, I was wondering what can kind of people expect if they come along to that show, and also just in general. I mean, what's it like to kind of get to play some of these kind of like legendary venues? What other kind of like live opportunities have you had like to play places that you might have wanted to, or just in general? I mean, where would you like what would be kind of some like ideal spots or like festivals or places that you'd like to go as the band expands from here on out?
Sure. So I think regarding the first point regarding what people should expect at the record release show, a show, basically.
Yeah.
The way we dress our set is not as if we write the set at the day of the show. We write the set a few weeks in advance. We make sure that everything is working. Obviously, that we can play the songs and they make sense, making sure that the vocals make sense, back vocals make sense. We have time to tune in between songs. There's not a lot of times in between songs because we're, a machine gun of songs. We have a lot of songs and we have like not a ton of stage time because we're not going to be on stage for 2 hours. We also want to keep it entertaining and interesting. So we're not going to drag our feet and play too many songs. So we try to find the right balance between playing a lot of songs and not too many songs. Play all the songs back together, but leave some gap because there's some stuff we need to be said in between. But making sure that, again, the performance is very well calculated, very well executed, making sure that, there's no room for error. And even if there is, part of the show. It's fine. But honestly, that's how we handle most of our shows. That's how we just take care of, our live performance. Regarding the second part of the question, venues, shows, festival, things we want to, we're looking forward to in the future, or the things we experience. We I mentioned earlier, like what is success in my book, and I think in our book, success is to be in a place where you like pinch yourself and ask yourself, how the fuck did I got here? Regardless of money, fame, numbers, F all that,
Yeah.
being in a place where you're experiencing something that you're like, how did I got here? So I think that could be a really small, medium venue packed with people who sing back the lyrics, to go bananas, that would be amazing. Surely will be amazing if it's a big ass stage at a festival, in a real surreal location. Sure. But we even the smaller things, like we're gonna appreciate like the small wins, things like that. So those are the kind of things we're looking forward to. If a gnarly opportunity is gonna come, if we're gonna pick down the right door and actually go to, crazy ass stages, play large festivals, playing, overseas, things like that, bring it on. That's going to be awesome to us. We're going to appreciate that as well. So that's definitely on the horizon. That's definitely something we're working on. But we're going to appreciate every time we're getting up on stage and people are enjoying it. We're going to appreciate every time we're connecting with someone who had fun listening to our music. Yeah, we're focusing on the journey, not so much on the goals. Like the path itself is what we're excited about.
Perfect. I think I've asked everything I had to ask. I was just going to ask, finally, I guess, like, is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up? And just in general, you're going to mention like you're writing a new album, but in general, like, what do you have for 2024 coming up?
So we have a few shows booked. We're working on a little tour. We're really excited to be opening up for Swinging Utters. They're
Oh,
like
cool.
legendary here. We're going to be going to play in Santa Cruz and Los Angeles this year. So, just kind of expanding our little reach, and I'm really excited for more people to hear the record. Like the streaming has been awesome. Seeing how many countries it's reached has been awesome. But just getting more opinions, like yours, how it makes people feel.
Yeah.
And of course, playing as much as humanly possible. But yeah, 2024 should be a fun time.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. And best of luck with everything going ahead. I'm sure you don't need it, but thank you.
Always need it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you liked it, please subscribe and stick around because we have plenty more like this coming soon.